It started as a typical night of watching television for Peter and Lois Griffin. They live in Quahog, in Rhode Island. But things quickly turned and changed when they began to argue over the TV channel, while Peter contentedly flipped through, much to Lois's chagrin and really much to her annoyance. "Peter, why don't you just watch something that I want for once?" Lois said exasperatedly. But Peter paid no attention to her mind and continued to occupy with the TV. This, of course, only served fuel to Lois's anger, and then she began to yell at him. "Don't you understand? I'm trying to have a conversation here. And how can I have a conversation if you won't even pay attention to me, Peter Griffin?" Peter, however, seemed obvious to her words, and before long, the two were in a full-blown argument, waving their arms, raising their voices, pointing fingers at each other. Now, the shouting woke up the rest of the family, and Chris, Meg, and even Brian and Stewie honestly tried to see if they could defuse the argument with many ways, but unfortunately, none of their solutions were really working. So Brian decides to have the kids sleep at Joe's house for the night. So Joe and his friend and his wife were okay with that. However, Joe Swanson was woken up since he lived next door to Peter. He soon rushed down the stairs with the intention of putting the stop to the argument once he got to the Griffin's house. When he got between the two, but that only seemed to worsen the situation. Peter then jokingly asked Joe to choose who was right and who was wrong. Joe, of course, refused, since he believed that it's not his place to settle spats between spouses, but he did tell them to keep it down because everyone was trying to sleep. But before Joe could give any more advice about the situation, an unexpected sound came from outside. A car had crashed into a tree, and soon the police arrived to check on the situation. It was then revealed that the driver was drunk and had caused a lot of damage to the car and to the tree. Joe, being the police officer, quickly recognized the situation, had to rush out to take care of it. As he was leaving, he looked back and saw that Peter and Lois were still arguing and fighting. However, Joe knew that he wasn't going to be able to much help them at that moment. But he also knew deep down that the only way the fighting would stop is if the two of them worked things out themselves. At the end, however, Lois and Peter were still in their quarrel, with Joe Swanson sadly walking away. Perhaps in the end, the fighting will come to an end, and as the two eventually will learn how to work out their differences. However, it wasn't until maybe an hour later, when Peter and Lois eventually calmed down, they apologized and they decided to go to bed. Nothing like that has ever happened very much in the Griffin family at nighttime, but however, it does happen once in a while. But Peter and Lois decided to drop the whole situation the next day. They apologized to Brian and, of course, their kids, and decided to offer them by taking them to the park to have some ice cream as a treat. Of course, Meg, Chris, Brian, and Stewie loved that, and the next day they went to do that, and Lois and Peter even completely forgot about what their argument was about, and they acted like it never happened.